morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of Real Analysis 1. In the last lecture, we have started our unit number 3 called as Multivariable Differential Calculus. And in this lecture, we have seen the basic notions related to ordinary derivatives and partial derivatives. Rather, we have focused on its geometrical interpretations. Okay. The first interpretation we have seen is of ordinary derivative, and we are familiar with that ordinary derivative at a given point is giving us the slope of the tangent at the point. Also, it is giving us the rate of change of a function with respect to the independent variable. And we have seen in detail how these two are going to work. Similarly, in case of partial derivatives, we have seen how by keeping one of the variable constant and taking the derivative with respect to another variable creates one curve, and the derivatives whichever we are finding will give us the slope of the tangent in positive in the coordinate axis direction, that is along x-axis and along y-axis. Or one can say this partial derivative helps us to give the rate of change or behavior of the function along the coordinate axis only, and that is probably one kind of limitation of the partial derivative. And due to this limitation, the partial derivative enables to give the continuity of the function at the corresponding point. That is, though the function possess the partial derivatives, possess rather I will say possess all partial derivative with respect to the independent variables, but may fail to be continuous at the same point. This is what the small drawback of the partial derivative. That's why there is a need to have a new derivative. Or one can say partial derivatives are can be found only for those functions which are of the type Rn to R, that is real valued multivariable differential calculus. Okay, the function should be of the type Rn to R only. Correct now? This should be a nature of a function Rn to R. That is, the function is multivariable, but this should be a real valued function. Okay, so we can find out the partial derivative for this kind of function. Now in this chapter we are going to extend the concept of derivative to the functions of the type Rn to Rm. Means this is vector valued multivariable function. Now we are going to extend this concept to vector valued multivariable differential calculus. Okay. Also, as this function is giving us the partial, as the partial derivative is not giving us the continuity, we will check whatever the extension is being carried out, whether it is giving us the continuity of the given function. This is what we have seen, continuity of the function of two variables. And whenever we are considering the function of two variable, the if I want to find out the continuity at a particular point, therefore instead of only two limits, limit from the left and limit from the line, there are many paths in the corresponding xy plane to reach towards the point AB. Therefore, the limit through all the paths should exist. Therefore, here we have written limit xy tends to AB in all possible directions. Therefore, instead of writing a line, now we are writing a neighborhood n of the closed interval B, for which this function is going to get us. Pratiksha Gholve, you should come early to the lecture. Okay. Okay, therefore partial derivative fails to give the continuity at the corresponding point. This is what we have seen. Now in today's lecture, we are going to understand a new type of derivative because this drawbacks of partial derivative. Let us recall the drawback what we have said. Partial derivative is, one can say, unsatisfactory generalization of the ordinary derivative, because this gives you the partial derivatives of the function of the type Rn to Rn to R only, that is real valued multivariable functions only. Okay, therefore the trouble is actually with this is the function, this partial derivative treats the function of several variables to be a function of one variable at a time. It is going to be the function of multivariable to be a function of one variable at a time, and then it is going to find out the derivative. And partial derivative describes the rate of change of function only along the coordinate axis and it is not giving us the rate of change in an arbitrary direction. I don't know what's the problem to the students. They should come in before 5 minutes, no? All the students are now instructed to join the lecture at least in 5 minutes of the first 5 minutes of the lecture. Yeah. Now let us start today. What we are going to study? We are going to study a generalization of partial derivative, and this is called as a directional derivative. We will just write the definition. Before the definition, can anyone tell me what is the parametric equation of a straight line in a three-dimensional space? Do anyone know? Suppose we have a point given in the space. How many lines I can draw through this point?
Infinitely many.
Infinitely many. Also, and in 3D also we can draw infinitely many. But if I want a unique line passing through the given point, then what we have to give? Suppose we are in 2D, then what we have to give? We have to give the direction of the line passing through this point, and the direction may be given with the two ways. Let me check now who wants the entry. Kajal Bopre, how much is the time? Kajal? Varsha Bagmode? Kajal Bopre, are you there? Are you listening me?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the time? Can you please tell me?
12:21.
When the lecture starts? You should be in time, okay? This is going to make me a trouble.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Varsha Bagmode also. Whether Varsha is there? Okay. If I want a unique line passing through the given point, what we want? We want a direction to the line. And the direction may be given by first method, you plot another point and just draw a line passing through both the points. Or the direction is also given, a vector is given and the direction is parallel to the vector. Correct now? Suppose this is a vector, say V, right? And this is a point, say C. Then one can say that draw the line passing through this point and parallel to V. Correct now? If it is parallel to V, may I say there will be a unique straight line again? Like this. Correct now? Therefore, to have a unique line passing through the given point, we want the direction to be prescribed to the to find out the unique line. Do anyone tell me what is the equation of the straight line in a parametric form? Actually, there are 2-3 different forms we have seen in our BSc level or somewhere in 12th standard as well. How to find out the equation of line passing through. There is 2-point formula, there is slope point formula. Correct, no? Now here we are going to use the parametric equation. Let me explain you what are the parametric equation in a minute. Okay. Suppose I want to find out the equation of line in 3D space. Equation of line in 3-dimension space. Correct. Say let me draw the sketch also. Say this be a point somewhere here, P0. Let the coordinates of the point P0 be x0, y0 and z0. Okay. Then if I want a unique line passing through this point, then one should give the direction along which you have to draw a line. In which direction should we draw a line passing through this point? And the direction is given to us by with the help of one vector. And the vector is suppose say v bar. Okay. And the coordinates of this vector be a, b, c. Right? Coordinates of the vector be a, b, c. Correct, no? Then how can I draw a line passing through P0 parallel to V bar? It's easy for us now. Correct, no? This is a straight line. Okay. Now to find out the equation of line, we will just suppose an arbitrary point say P with coordinates say x, y, z. Here also let me write the coordinates of this point P naught. This is x naught, y naught, z naught. Therefore, to find out the equation of this line P naught P. Okay, what is the hint known to us? This line P naught P, the straight line passing through P naught P is a parallel to V bar. And whenever we know the two lines are parallel, they are scalar multiples of one another. Therefore, may I write P naught P bar is some scalar set T I am going to select scalar T into V bar. Does everyone agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How to find out the equation of this P naught P? In vector calculus already we have studied now. If this is origin, then the straight line P naught P bar can be found by calculating OP minus OP naught bar. Correct now? Now what is OP coordinate? Let me join this with origin OP and OP naught. Let me write this OP vector to be some R bar, and let me write this OP naught to be some R naught bar. Therefore here may I write R bar minus R naught bar is equals to T into V bar. Vectors, in terms of vectors I have written. Therefore here I can write R bar is equals to R naught bar plus T V bar. R naught bar is equals to T V bar. If I want to write in terms of coordinates, how can I write? Coordinates of R bar is x naught, sorry, it's x, y, z. No? Correct, na? What are the coordinates of R bar? X, Y, Z. What for R naught? This is x naught, y naught, and z naught plus t into what the coordinates of V bar is EBC. Therefore, if I just equate coordinate wise, we will get this as x naught, x is equals to x naught plus AT, y is equals to y naught plus BT, z is equals to z naught plus CT. Correct now? Therefore, this is called as the parametric equation. This is also and this is also. This is in terms of coordinates and this is called as the parametric equation of the straight line. Okay, now we are going to use this parametric equation of a straight line while defining the derivative. One more thing, whenever we are finding an equation or whenever we are interested in finding the line passing through T and parallel to V, then what are the coordinates of the point? If I want to write a line segment, then the coordinates of the line segment for first point will be P and the end point will be P plus V. Do you know this? Let me show you this in 2D. What we want to do, I'll just mark some scales here so that I should not go wrong. Okay, now here let us take a point P with coordinates say 1, 2. Okay, and let me give the coordinate of a vector V to be some 4, 1, say. And we want to find out the line passing through P parallel to V. Okay, so what will be the location of this point 1, 2? Is it somewhere here P? Okay, and what will be the location of a vector V? This is 4, 1 we were saying, somewhere here. This is V, correct na? Somewhere here it is V. Let me join this V with origin. Now we want to draw a line parallel to this V through the point P. So somewhat will be the coordinates like this. Okay, and what will be the coordinate of this point? This is P plus V. Therefore, this is 1, 2. Here I don't have that exact scales. Therefore, you might not get the exact coordinates. But if you draw this on a graph paper, this P plus V will have the exact coordinate as 5. This is 4. Here it is 5. Here it is not looking like 3. It is between 3 and 4. But it is 5, 3. Therefore, this, if we want a line segment passing through P parallel to V, therefore, the end points of the line segment will be P and P plus V. Okay, this point one should know. One should know this point also. If you have any doubt in 2 points, equation of line and this also, you can ask me. Yes, students? Whether having a doubt on this?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Good.
No, ma'am.
Now we are ready to understand what is the definition of directional derivative. Okay. Actually, the definition of directional derivative goes very parallel to the first principle definition of derivative. Let me write directional derivative. Let me write directional derivative. Okay. Now instead of a plane, now we are in a 3D space. First, we will define a function, say f. Okay. Let f be a function from S to Rm, where S is a subset of Rn. Therefore, what is the type of function it is? The function is of the type Rn to Rm. Therefore, this is multivariable vector valued function. Correct? No? This is multivariable vector value. This is not real value because the domain codomain, if we see, this is Rm. So this is multivariable vector valued function. Okay. Now we want to study how the function f changes as we move from one point of the domain to another point of the, or one can say the nearby point. Therefore, we will try to understand how the points being plotted. Okay. For the sake of understanding, let me assume this to be a domain space, say S, which is no doubt a subset of Rn. That is an n-dimensional space. Okay. Now what we were claiming, we want to say, suppose we want to find out the rate of change of the function at the point C, that is derivative at the point C. Then in which direction we want to move? We want to move in an arbitrary direction, which is parallel to a vector u, say, which is the direction should be parallel to a vector u. Then what will be a line segment? C to C plus u. Is it okay?
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
now I have told you in two-dimensional spaces. If we start with the point P in the direction V, then the line segment will have the end points to be P and P plus V. If this is not possible to show an n-dimensional space on our 2D plane. Therefore, wherever is your location of a vector, because as this is an n-dimensional space, there must be some origin and vector u will be joined with the origin. Now we want to draw a line parallel to u vector. Therefore, according to this previous statement, what we know is if we draw a line passing through C parallel to V, then the line segment have the coordinates C and C plus U. Both are no doubt the n tuple vectors in a domain space. Yes. Okay. Now what we were going to claim? We were going to claim this C to be an interior point. C to be an interior point. Okay. Before that, how can I write the arbitrary point on the line segment? No doubt, endpoints we have written C and C plus U. First endpoint is C, last endpoint is C plus U. But how can I write the endpoint in between C and C plus U? Therefore, actually this can be written as C plus 0 times U to C plus 1 times U. The coordinates are C plus 0 times U to C plus 1 times U. Therefore, if I want to write any arbitrary point on this line segment, this is denoted with C plus HU, where H is the small scalar. Or rightly one can say if it is between the line segment only, then H takes the values between 0 to 1. If H takes the values between 0 to 1, this will be a point on the line segment C to C plus U. Okay, is the point clear?
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
it was assumed that C is an interior point of the domain space. C is interior point of the domain space. What will happen if C is an interior point of S? What definition says? What is definition of an interior point? Yes, interior point is. Have you forgotten the definition of interior point? The point is said to be anterior point if an open ball or a small neighborhood around it is in the same set. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
But here also, as we are claiming C to be an anterior point, what does it mean? A small open ball around C. A small open ball around C. What is the notation we were using for an open ball? This is be a C comma R, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Center at C with radius R. Therefore, this is B. Therefore, if C is an anterior point, this open ball around C lies entirely in yes?
Yes,
Lies
ma'am.
entirely in yes. Then, for small values of H, may I say the point C plus HU is in the open ball. Therefore, it is in the open set. This is in the domain yes. See what I'm trying to tell you. I don't know why are you getting me or not. Okay. The use of the point C is an anterior point is simply if C is anterior point, then the open ball around C, BCR is in the domain yes. Okay. If the open ball is in yes, for small values of H, the point C plus HU is in the open ball. Therefore, this C plus HU is in the set yes. Okay. Means this should not be a case. Let me draw another sketch to explain. Okay, suppose this is the domain yes and C is not an anterior point. C is not an anterior point. If C is not an anterior point, let me join the 2 points C and C plus U. Okay, then whether we give the guarantee that the point C plus HU is in the domain,
No, ma'am.
this everything C is an anterior point is necessary only to ensure that C and C plus HU both are in the domain space. Okay. Therefore, here, if C is not an anterior point, then one can take C plus HU to be a point maybe outside the domain. Maybe outside the domains S. Okay. Therefore, just to ensure that C plus HU is in the same domain, we have written C to be an anterior point. If C is an anterior point, for smaller values of H, C plus HU is in the ball is in S. Therefore, C plus HU, the point will be in the set S itself. Okay, any doubt up to this? Both
No,
the
ma'am.
points?
No, ma'am.
C we have taken to be a point of yes, no doubt. We have just ensured that C plus HU is also in the domain. लक्षात येते ना? C anterior आहे. For small values of H, C plus HU बॉल मध्ये येतो. बॉल yes मध्ये आहे. म्हणून आपण काय म्हणणार आहोत? C plus HU पण S मध्ये आहे. For both the points C and its neighboring point C plus HU, we have claimed that both are in the same domain. Okay. Therefore, let me write this much. Okay. Now here we want to study how F changes. Let me write with this definition what we were doing. Here we study how F changes. We study how F changes as we move from a point C in yes along a line segment to a nearby point C plus U where U is not equals to 0. What will happen if U is equals to 0? This will not be a neighboring point. No? It will be C itself. Each point on the line segment can be expressed as C plus HU where H is real. Wait for a minute. Here the screen get freezed. Screen is visible to everyone, no?
Yes, ma'am.
But it becomes freeze. I'll just stop the sharing and I'll start again, okay? Where H is real. The vector U describes what is happening today, I don't know. Where the vector U describes the direction of line. Direction of line segment. Okay, now here we assume that C is an interior point. C is an interior point of the domain. Yes, then there is an open ball. There is an open ball BCR lying in yes. Already I have explained these points. I'm just writing as a definition. And if H is small, enough, the line segment joining C to C plus HU will lie in BCR and NC. Yes, okay, this is what we have explained. Now we will move towards the definition. What the definition says that, as I told you, it is very similar to the first principle definition. What is the first principle definition? We've already recalled now what is the first principle definition. Let me take a yes. The directional derivative. Yes, student has to tell me the first principle derivative. Definition.
F dash of x equal to limit h tends to 0 f of x plus h minus f of x upon h.
What if x and x plus h are?
H is small increment. Yes, ma'am.
That is, these two are neighboring points on x-axis. 2 points in the domain space. Correct? Now here also we are taking 2 points of the domain space. We will find out the increment ratio and we will put a limit. Therefore, let me write directional derivative of f at C in the direction u. Denoted by the symbol we were using now is f dash, same f dash at the point C in the direction u. In ordinary derivatives, we were not mentioning the direction because it is obvious that we were taking it in x direction. In partial derivatives also, we were not mentioning the direction because either it is along x and it is along y. Now we were finding the derivative along an arbitrary direction u. Therefore, we were mentioning the direction defined by. Now here which 2 neighboring points we were considering? The 2 neighboring points we will consider in the domain is C and C plus H. These are the 2 neighboring points under the consideration. Okay. Now we will find out the increment in the dependent variable, that is in the function, divided by increment in the independent variable, and we will put the limit. Okay, therefore the definition is now, what is the increment in the function? F of c plus hu minus f of c. Is it okay? This is the increment, and increment in the function. And what is the increment in the independent variable? C to c plus
HU.
hu we have moved. This increment is due to a number h. Correct, no? Okay, and finally we are putting a limit. Limit h tends to 0, and this is the definition of a directional derivative, which gives you the rate of change of a function at the point C in an arbitrary direction u, where the definition goes very parallel to the definition. Is the definition clear? Here I will try
Yes,
to
ma'am.
write the definition. Limit h tends to 0. First principle definition we were writing. This is the first principle definition. Both the definitions goes parallel. The only change is in the denominator. The change in the independent variable is due to a real number h. That's why it was taken h, and this notation gives you the rate of change or the derivative at point C in the direction u. As in partial derivative, fx is the symbol we were using, which gives you the rate of change of a function along x direction. Fy is the rate of change of the function in y direction. Okay, here therefore that u, semicolon u, gives us the rate of change or the derivative of a function in the direction u. Therefore this derivative helps us to give the rate of change or rather a behavior of a function in an arbitrary direction u. In an arbitrary direction u. Is the definition clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Understand the
Yes, ma'am.
definition? This point should be clear to everyone. How that the two neighboring points in the n-dimensional space was chosen, C and C plus HU. To understand this, I have shown you on 2D plane how to find out the parametric equation, how to write the equations of the line, and etc. Okay, clear to everyone? Therefore, this is a directional derivative. See, the name itself tells you the meaning. It is directional derivative. Derivative in the given direction. Okay, this is what actually was main drawback in partial derivative theory. In partial derivative theory, we were finding the derivative only in two directions, along x-axis or along y-axis. Okay, but with the help of this derivative now, we will be able to find out the rate of change. That is, if this was a surface, say, in a 3D space, okay, and this is my point, say C. Okay, then this partial derivative gives us the rate of change in two directions. That is, as we move along the x direction, this will be a rate of change fx. If we move along y direction, it will be a rate of change fy. And if we move in any other arbitrary direction, we are unable to give the rate of change. That is, we are unable to tell the behavior of the function along an arbitrary direction. But with this, now we will be able to find out the rate of change in an arbitrary direction. Okay, let us move towards solving the example. If you are not having any difficulty in the definition, or if you have the difficulty in the definition, you please ask me. Student, having the difficulty? Should I assume again? I hope the voice is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I go for examples then?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We will start with a simple example. The first example I will consider is f of xy is equal to x square y. Okay, you have to tell me the nature. What kind of domain codomain spaces should be there? What kind of function it is? Surely it is not one variable real valued function. Correct, na? Yes. Amarja Dage wants an entry in this lecture now. अमरजा डागे तुम्ही मीटिंग लीव करायची आहे. Okay, here we want to find out directional derivative. We want to find directional derivative at c equal to 0, 0. Origin. What kind of nature it is? As it has two variable, means this domain space must be a subspace of R2. Look at the function defined x square y. Therefore, may I say this is a real valued function for any value of x and y?
Yes, ma'am.
Therefore, the nature of the function is of the type R2 to R. Correct, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Surely it is not R to R. The nature of the function is R2 to R. Now, it was asked to find out the derivative, directional derivative at the point 0, 0 and in the direction u. In the direction u, let me write the coordinates in u1, u2. Why? Because the domain space is two-dimensional. Therefore, it is having the two-tuple vector. U is having two-tuple vector, say u1, u2. Okay. Now, we will just go in finding the directional derivative. Look at the definition. What we have to find out? First, we will find f of c. Then we will find f of c plus hu. We will find the ratio. We will put the limit h tends to 0. Is the process clear? We will find f of c. We will find f of c plus hu. Then this ratio, and then we will put a limit h tends to 0. What is c given to us? 0, 0. Correct? Therefore, let me find out f of c first. F of c is f of 0, 0. What is the value?
0.
0.
This is 0. Okay. And we want to next find the value of c plus hu. Before that, let me write what is that number c plus hu. C is origin 0, 0. H is the real number. U is the direction given with u1, u2. Therefore, what is c plus hu having the coordinates? 0 plus hu1. Is it hu1? And
Yes,
hu2.
ma'am.
Okay. Therefore, what about f of c plus hu? May I write this is f of hu1, hu2. Fine. Let us find out what is f of hu1 and hu2. What is the definition f of xy? This is given to be x square y. Correct? No? So what can I write here?
h cube u1 square u2.
Achha, you told me direct answer. Let me write square of the x coordinate into a y coordinate. Is that clear? Therefore, this is h cube u1 square u2. Now we will go for finding the ratio. Consider. What should I consider? The ratio I have to consider. Or shall I write the definition directly? Instead of going one by one, shall I write directly? F dash of cu, which is equal to f dash of 0, comma u, is limit h tends to 0, f of c plus hu minus f of c divided by h. Limit h tends to 0. What is f of c plus hu we have found? H cube u1 square u2 minus what is f of c? It's 0 and everything is divided by h. Okay. Let us just do a simplification. Limit h tends to 0. 1h we will cancel and v remains with h square u1 cube, sorry, u1 square and u2. Now let us put the limit h tends to 0. What is the value of limit h tends to 0? If I put h tends to 0 here, is the value 0?
0.
Yes.
Therefore, whether limit exists or not, limit exists. Correct? Thus, limit exists. Hence, the function possesses directional derivative at c equal to 0, 0 and in the direction u. Correct now? And how we are going to interpret this solution 0, answer 0, what it implies us? At 0, if I want to move towards in the direction 0, the derivative is 0. That is the rate of change of the function is 0, means the surface is flat at the point.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the surface, say, and somewhere here be a point C, and say this is the direction U, C plus U, say. Okay, then if we are standing at this point C and we are proceeding towards a point C plus U, that is in the direction U, then derivative is 0, means the surface is having a flat nature. Flat means there is no valley, there is no ups and there is no down. The surface possesses a flat nature at the point origin. This is what an interpretation of your answer. Derivative helps us to understand the behavior of the surface, behavior of the function. Okay. Any doubt with the example? Have you understood the example? Solving examples is easy. You should know how to interpret the solution. Right? Let us go for the next one more example and then we will stop. Whose lecture is there at 1:30? Okay. It's almost 1. What I'll do, I'll not solve the example. I will give you the you to solve. Okay? And you try for it. Find f dash of 0, comma u means what? Directional derivative at origin in the direction u. Tomorrow you have to tell me the answers for these examples. Okay, try to solve these examples. Okay, we will stop for today. If you have the difficulties, you can ask me. Not having the difficulties, then we will stop for today. Thank you for being with me for this lecture.